Good morning, everybody. Oh, that was pretty good.
Good morning, class.
Wow, do that one more time. Good morning. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Guitar Town Day 2, better known as Electric Day. As you can see, we have an amazing group of artists arrayed in front of you here. Let me do some quick introductions, starting from my left here. This guy's become a Guitar Town regular as a band member and a featured performer. He's worked with everybody from Peter Erskine to Lamont Dozier, Robin Ford. Also happens to be the guitar program chair at the Musicians Institute in Los Angeles. Please welcome Stig Matheson. Next to Stig, first time here at Guitar Town. She occupies a particular place in the top ranks of contemporary blues guitarists, and I believe you're here just ahead of the release of your next album called Killer Be Kind.
Yep.
Samantha Fish. Next to Samantha is now a longtime member of the Guitar Town family. He has his own solo career. He plays with Guitar Army. He does remarkable things both as a fingerstyle acoustic guitar player as well as his work on electric guitar. Please welcome Joe Robinson. And of course, what would Guitar Town be without this gentleman? I've tried to figure out different ways to introduce you.
Do you want me to tell you?
Go ahead.
I guess I was named one of 100 guitar heroes by Guitarist Magazine in the UK last
There
week.
you go.
So there you go.
There you go.
John Jorgensen.
One of 100.
Uh,
I'm number 99.
You're in there, though.
next to John is a true, as we like to say, a true triple threat in music. He's a killer guitar player. He is a great songwriter, and he sings like nobody's business. Give it up for Leroy Parnell. Next to Leroy, this gentleman also, I believe, first year at Guitar Town. Yes. Yep. Has 10 albums to his credit. He's performed with everybody from Bon Jovi to Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. His latest release is called Let It Slide. Give it up for Steve Pfister. And next to Steve, and I should preface this introduction by saying he's on the injured list. So so we don't see him with a guitar, but we're so glad that he came to sit in on the workshop. He's enjoyed, and you may know this, a 5-decade career from backing up John Lee Hooker to playing with Canned Heat to his own solo career. His latest album is called Survivor's Blues. Give it up for Walter Trout.
Yeah, man.
All right. So today's topic, which only came to me in the middle of the night last night when I couldn't sleep, is cover songs. Why you choose covers, what does a cover have to make you want to play it, and most importantly, and I think this goes for perhaps all the guitar players or musicians in the room, how do you make it your own? Right? So I'm gonna kind of put this on John to start. How do you take a cover song and make it yours?
Well, first of all, you gotta choose a song that means something to you. You know, if it's an instrumental, you gotta try to figure out what the feeling was, whoever was that wrote it. If it's a vocal and lyrics, you have to be able to relate to those lyrics and to be able to deliver them as if they're yours. You know, so a lot of things, you know, you just can't do it. You know, if you're a kid that grew up in Southern California like me, you know, you're not going to really convincingly do something where you're talking about being a sharecropper or something like that, you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
For me, and also it's like to try to up your game as a writer and a player and a singer too. So I try to choose things that are from writers that I really respect. You know, like today, if we get to play on the main stage, which is not a given at the moment, I'll actually be doing 3 covers with Guitar Army.
You will. Okay.
One is called Wandering Boy, and that's written by Rodney Crowell. It's one of my favorite songs of his. And one is called Run. It's an instrumental. I do an instrumental version, but it was a pop hit by a group called Snow Patrol, and I love the melody. And the third one is a Roy Buchanan song that Gary Moore really killed, and it's called "The Messiah Will Return."
Yeah.
And so Gary Moore is playing it on Peter Green's Les Paul, a Roy Buchanan song. So you get a tribute to a lot of great guys all at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's how I chose those songs.
Right. So Steve, going to you. Choosing cover songs.
You know, I always put probably one cover song per record.
Yeah.
And I'd look for something that I can fisterize.
Explain that.
Well, it's something that, like John was saying, that it has to have a lot of melodic content that I think I can take a little bit further. In other words, not just a blatant copy, but what can I bring to it?
Yeah.
Like,
Is there an example you can give us?
a good example comes to mind. My dear friend Walter Trout played on one of my records, and we did a version of "You Can't Always Get What You Want." And it starts out funky and it goes crazy, and Walter plays this incendiary solo at the end. And I'm so thankful for you for doing that, Walter. That was awesome.
Well, I know I'm old and beat up, but I don't remember doing it.
I did? Okay, thanks, man. I'll take
That's
your
the way
word
the best
for
music is being made.
Rigorous honesty there.
Absolutely.
So that's what I always try.
Right.
That was a testament, man.
So Walter, then the key is to actually not remember what you do. Just play it.
I can't help it. You know, I had a liver transplant, but now I need a brain cell transplant.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Leroy, what about you?
You know, I always go back from where I came from, which is blues and really blues and country in their embryonic states were the same music, and then they just became brother and sister. And then as things went on, then they became something else. They both became something else. Either one is what they once were. But I'll go back and I'll find those songs that I learned as a kid. And I think we talked about it last year, or one year we did, how, you know, Milk Cow Blues, which I do in my show every night. And that's the first song my dad taught me on guitar. And it was Bob that told me, you know, because, you know, this is an old story and I don't mean to repeat myself, but Dad and Bob were childhood friends, so I grew up around the Wills Band, and I saw those songs, those blues songs, become what they were through those hands.
Yeah.
So they were covering Kokomo Arnold, who really has a copyright on that song, but who wrote it, God knows. I mean, some of this stuff is just handed down. It's like, it's folklore, you know, and it's truth. But I'll take that song in Milk Cow Blues, for instance. Levon did a thing called Milk Cow Boogie. I think that's what he called it. And it had a rolling, you know, push-pull kind of thing to it, which was cool. And then we took that, and I don't know, just through the evenings that we play, every night I do it, it's different. I mean, every damn night it's different. I couldn't repeat myself if I tried. And it just gets, so it grows from that.
Right.
And then it becomes you through that process. I think you have to play it. Guy Clark used to say, a song's not really finished until you play it for an audience. And maybe that's the truth of these cover songs.
Got it. Yeah. Sure. Well, so in that spirit of kind of making it your own and playing it, is there, you know, I think a blues song that we could get everybody here kind of jump in on?
I'm sure. Sure. What would you do? Well, we can do that. I mean, if you
Do
want.
it.
I mean,
Do it.
you know, Bob, I'm in open tuning here because I'm playing slide and I can't do it the other way. I mean, automatically that gives it doesn't sound like Western swing now.
Right. Yeah, it gives it another feel.
You know, it's all the Robert Johnson stuff coming through.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You know, stuff like that. Mm.
That was beautiful.
So we'll do this. And I just do it by myself like that. Woke up this morning, I looked outdoors. I could tell that was my milk cow. Tell you by the way she looked. I'm not singing the higher thing because I can't. If you see my milk cow, please drive her on home. Ain't had no milk or butter since my milk cow been gone. And then
There you go.
well, I woke up this morning, looked outdoors. I could tell that was my milk cow. Tell by the way she looked. If you see my milk cow, please drive her on home. I ain't had no milk or butter since my milk cow been gone. Just pass it on. George. Joe Robinson. Yeah. Look out, she's got a guitar. pass the fifth. Well, we got to go this way now. I believe you've got one there.
Watch yourself now, Steve. Look out.
Steve Fister, ladies and gentlemen. You Fisterize that, man. So you can hear, I mean, we're all kind of doing our little version of the same old song, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. Should we do the whole thing? Should we finish it out like professional?
Yes, let's finish it out like professionals.
Well, it's got this stop thing in it, so y'all just keep chugging it. I've done everything, baby, to get along with you. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. Stop this crying, I'm gonna leave you alone. If you don't believe I'm leaving, baby, count the days I'm gone. You're gonna need my love someday. And you're going to be sorry you treated me this way.
Yeah.
Walter was there in spirit.
Yeah.
Nice playing, man.
So, Stig, I'm going to come to you because, you know, part of your life is spent as an educator. And I'm wondering what you tell your students about cover songs and how they might approach them.
Well, it's a very good question, Scott.
It's my job.
That's professional at that, that's for sure. How about a big hand for the voice of Guitar Town? So anyway, just to address your questions, cover songs is, I gotta be honest, I'm stylistically very diverse. I have a background as a rock, metal, and guitar player as a kid. I play classical music, I play jazz, I play all sorts of in-between things. And the one thing that's important about cover songs, or should we say learning material of others, that is important for anybody that is sort of a student of music, whether it be a lifelong student or in a concentrated time period out of college or wherever, it is that learning things from others is the quickest, fastest way to get intimate, familiar with the codes and the vocabulary in that particular genre. So, me myself, as a kid, I would have tribute bands. I remember as a 17, 18-year-old, I would have Van Halen tribute bands and Joe Satriani tribute bands and Kiss tribute bands will play Aussie music, and later when I got older, I would do like an entire evening of Pat Metheny music or gypsy jazz, Django music, and I'm pretty sure John Jorgensen, who is maybe the greatest musical chameleon in our world, he can surely give more depth to what I'm talking about. But there's no faster way and more important way to sort of become an authentic musician within any genre than to learn covers, and especially learn all the nuanced codes within that genre. Now, that being said, something interesting happened as I got a little bit older, is that being all over the place stylistically and having a foot in so many different camps, musical camps, all of a sudden you start realizing that, what if we take this song from this genre and try to see if we can have it make sense, dressed up in a different musical flavor without it having being sort of tacky or cheesy or completely out of, outside of what would be considered respectable in that genre. And that is something that I find to be very, very interesting. And back to what you're talking about with cover songs, is if you can find cover songs that you can sort of, even if it's not in the same genre, you can sort of make them your own, then I think really interesting musical new ideas can be presented.
Is there an example of that somehow that comes to mind for you?
Yeah. Today, if the weather gods are with us, we will play. I'll play with a trio, and we'll play Gershwin's
Summertime.
Summertime, but we'll do it in a more like a funky version, with more of a driving beat, with a little bit more grit. A little bit more drive on, and it somehow seems to work. So that's a good example of a song that wasn't intended to be played in that sort of a setting, but if it works,
Sure.
I guess I'm not going to argue with the result.
Sure. Samantha, so I mean, you're well known as a blues guitar player. I think your music goes well beyond that. I think that's somewhat limiting for you. But in terms of choosing cover songs for you, because so much of the blues idiom, is kind of rooted in a very sort of tried and true experience. How do you approach it? How do you approach covers?
I mean, it's a matter of personal preference too. I don't think there's a guideline to it. I mean, really, I start with songs that, I feel, that's like, oh, that song touches me. I want to perform it. That's the best place to start, because you're going to get, if you don't like the song or you can't feel the song, your performance isn't going to be genuine. It's not going to move people. So that's a good place to start, songs you love. Or song, I would, for a while, I was like, let's do songs that freak people out, like surprise people.
What would be an example of that?
I think War Pigs freaked everybody out. We started doing it at blues festivals, and that was kind of, we're in the blues genre and we're playing War Pigs at festivals. I thought it was funny. But people liked it. I guess some people liked it, some people hated it, but it was just fun to do. It's something that it worked well within my set, and I think, when I approach covers now, there is a fine balance between respecting the original and making it your own, because I used to do, when I first started, I would just do a cover and completely just basically put the words over something completely different. And my friend Curtis Salgado told me, you can't do that. You gotta you have to respect the core melody. That's what made that song what it was, powerful. And so there's a fine line between making it your own and also respecting, what it is, and try to, pay homage to the artist that made it famous and, what it is. So there's kind of this push and pull, but we do a lot of covers in our set. I did a whole record of covers a couple years ago, songs from the 60s that people hadn't really heard. And that was definitely the push and pull, trying to make it my own and put my stamp on it, but, respect these artists. And
Is there something you can give us a sense of?
Ooh, I guess. I could do we did some doo-wop groups from the 60s and stuff, so a band called The Cinemas. There's a song called Never Gonna Cry. Said I never gonna cry over him. I never gonna weep for loving, 'cause I remember I'm never gonna cry. Said I never gonna tell him that I weep when he's so early. Never gonna weep for loving when boy. So talk to me, yeah. I'm gonna talk to him, yes I am. Oh, 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 yes I am. And if he says he can't make it, ooh, I'm gonna find somebody else. And if my boyfriend is mad at me, oh, I'm gonna tell him no and find somebody else. Oh, 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 I never gonna cry over him, no. I never gonna wait for loving, 'cause baby, I made up my mind. I'm never gonna cry. I ain't gonna do it, no, 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 no. I said, Lord, oh, well. That's just a little piece of it. It's too early
Thanks,
for this,
Sam.
but
Wow.
thank you.
Really great, Sam.
You know, for this hour of the morning, singing like
Oh
that.
my God.
that's-
It's not
Yeah,
awake
well done.
yet.
Well done.
Well done.
How about that, huh? Come on.
Well done.
So Joe, I mean, everybody on stage here is a master in one way or another. But you know, you came to Guitar Town first. We knew you as this acoustic fingerstyle, crazy great guitarist, and you have your career has evolved over time, and your songwriting, your playing, Guitar Army, your own solo stuff. So talk a little bit about kind of that evolution as it impacts kind of your thinking about cover songs.
Yeah. Well, ever since the beginning, I've found it easier to make up my own songs rather than learn songs verbatim. I guess I just never had the patience for sitting there and figuring things out exactly. So my favorite thing to do was like to find a song I liked, steal an idea from it, and then make up my own song. And that's
In the
that's
great
still,
in the great musical tradition.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and you know, so many of the covers that I play, you know, I love playing jazz standards because you can improvise and kind of, you know, inject your own creativity into, you know, them that way. And I love playing blues songs because, you know, it's just a fun collaborative experience doing that. But I don't do a lot of covers otherwise. And you know, when I would hear like my first mentors, Phil and Tommy Emmanuel, playing all these great Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed arrangements, that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole of learning every Chet Atkins arrangement and every Jerry Reed arrangement I could. And I based a lot of my songs over from techniques that I learned from those guys. And like, if I take a song like Misty, I remember when I was young, I came up with an arrangement of this song, and it was a ballad.
He's a full-grown man right now. I guarantee you that.
And I enjoyed arranging this, and when I say arranged, I really just mean sped up.
Go ahead. Well, give us a sense of it.
So I'd play like. Thank you.
I quit. Excuse me, I gotta say, I'm gonna quit. I'm going home and get a job driving for Uber.
Thank you all for coming. Good morning.
Guitar for sale?
All I can say.
Any buyers?
Can I just add that, okay, you also chose like the most horrible key for the guitar, E flat.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that?
Well,
You want to torture yourself.
yeah, well, when I was growing up in Australia, I didn't have a guitar teacher. We had 2 TV channels and they were both fuzzy. And I had a Casio keyboard songbook. This is true. And I learned how to read, notation from playing the piano. And I would try and figure out songs like, so I learned a lot of songs from that Casio keyboard songbook. And I learned Misty in the key of E flat, which was the original apparently. And so then I just, I'd learn a bunch of Chet Atkins pieces, and then I thought I'll try and just Chet Atkinsify this song because, my own songs weren't very good at that time. So I got a lot of mileage out of that arrangement, still do.
Wow.
That may be the best advertisement for the Casio keyboard songbook ever. Ever.
Hey, Joe's mom is here, and it's just so great to see her face watching her boy.
Here, here.
Sorry, Scott, I had to break.
All right, so Walter, I know that you're on the injured list, but nonetheless, in the course of your career, choosing covers, what makes you choose the song?
Well, my latest album is an album of all covers of blues songs, but what I did, I'd be riding in my car listening to blues stations on the radio, and there are at least 855 versions of Got My Mojo Working and Stormy Monday. And I thought, the recorded history of this music goes back about 100 years to Charlie Patton, right?
Right.
And there's this amazing history and catalog, rich history of this music that gets overlooked. So I decided to try to do research and find hidden, forgotten treasures, songs that have been forgotten, maybe never even really heard, but songs that were worthy of being brought back and presented.
Yeah.
And that's why I did an album of covers.
And that's called Survivor's Blues, right?
It's Survivor's Blues, and it's because I think the songs survive in their relevance and their beauty and their majesty.
Yeah.
And I found some amazing stuff that was just forgotten out there. And it was really a labor of love. I've done 28 albums, and I've written 26 of them. The other cover album I did was a tribute to my dear friend, Luther Allison. And after he passed, and he was a mentor of mine, I kept waiting for somebody to do something for the guy, and nobody did. So I took it upon myself to do an album of his tunes and try to pay homage to that magnificent human being that he was.
That's fantastic.
But so those are the covers I've done. I did years ago do a cover. I did a live version of I Shall Be Released because I think the song is spectacular. If I'm going to sing a cover, I have to live the lyrics. I will choose a cover because of the lyrics.
Right.
I have to be able to be sincere in what I'm putting across.
So lyrically, for you, it's almost more important than musically.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm going to sing it, I have to live it. I have to feel it.
Sure.
I don't want to be an actor up there. I want to be involved.
Right.
I want to live the music.
Yeah.
And the sincerity is really important to me. So I can't just go up and mimic the lyrics of some song. I mean, but I could live, wop bop a loo bop a wop bam boom. I get those lyrics. I feel them, but not everything.
We all do.
So to me, that was how I would choose covers.
Yeah, yeah. So John, is there a song? Because I love it when I get everybody playing here. So is there a song we can pick out that we can get everybody in on here? Well, Walter.
Oh man. It's early.
Yeah.
Let me
It's the
sing
same time-
this afternoon. I live a block from the ocean, and we just flew here. I've been on sea level for 45 years in that town, and I'm high, man. I didn't sleep. I mean, I used to spend a lot of money to feel like this, you know? And no, I'm telling you, this afternoon, I'll wrap up my pinky, I'll play with 3 fingers. It might mean I have to leave out a couple of notes, and God forbid, I may have to attempt playing tastefully.
Yeah.
I don't want
By
to
the way-
wreck
by the
my
way-
image.
By the way, Walter has now been appointed the new head of the Copper Convention and Visitors Bureau. So, just FYI.
Yes.
So back to a song. I don't know why the lights went out. Oh, there we go. Okay.
My brain is not doing too good. We could try something that was maybe an experiment that might not work, but you know, as I was thinking about all of these, you know, covers and stuff like that, you know, and kind of piggybacking on what Walter was saying, you know, Leonard Cohen is one of my favorite songwriters, and his lyrics are pretty amazing. So I thought maybe I might try to teach everybody one of his songs. We could play together.
Love that.
It's not super hard. It's going to be in the key of F for love.
I'll grab another guitar.
But it's so the song is called "In My Secret Life," and the reason I chose it was I like the melody, but I really like the lyrics, and I hope I'll remember them and sing them correctly. But it's kind of the basic premise of the song is that, you know, you really hope for all of these things. You hope to be a really good person. You hope to be honest. You hope to be truthful, and you hope that the love of your life loves you. And in his song, all of those things happen in his secret life. You know, not necessarily in real life. But so the song, the chords of the verse are F, D minor, B flat, and C. So we would say 1, 6, 2, 5. Yeah. And in the little turnaround, which is the kind of the chorus, it's D minor, C with an E in the bass, and F. And it repeats, okay? So that's the whole, and then the bridge, which we'll get to, is D minor, C, B flat, D minor, C, B flat, D minor, C, B flat, and then G minor, F, B flat, C. So we'll start with the turnaround. Is that what I call it?
Yeah, I got all that.
You guys got all that?
Yeah, man, I got that.
When we get to the part, you'll remember. Oh,
I
yeah,
will?
he said it good. This. Yeah, you'll remember it. I know you.
You do know me.
I
That's
do.
true.
I do.
We almost get kicked out of class together every year.
Yeah. He looks at me with this kind of look that I know he knows what I'm thinking. And it's not necessarily a good thing, but anyway, so you want to tune that up before? Oh, yeah. So you just gotta. Oh, you're. Okay. So we'll start with it. Now to stay on F. I saw you this morning. You were moving mighty fast. Seems I can't seem to loosen my grip on the past. And I miss you so much. My heart's cold as ice. But we're still making love. D minor. Oh, 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 in my secret life. In my secret life. I lie when I'm angry. I cheat and I lie. I do what I have to do to get by. But the papers want to tell you that it's all black and white. And I die for the truth. Whoa, 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 in my secret life. In my secret life. Now the 6 minor. Hold on, my brothers. Sisters, hold on tight. Once again, I finally got my orders. G minor, really so. Well, I'm marching through the morning, walk up, marching through the night, marching across the borders of my secret life. I bite my lip and I do what I'm told. From the latest hit to the wisdom of old. And the papers want to tell you that it's all black and white. And thank God it's not that simple. In my secret life, in my secret life. Go ahead, Joe. D minor. Come on, Samantha. Beautiful. We'll go to the bridge again. G minor. Oh, hold on, my brothers. Sisters, hold on tight. I finally got my orders. G minor. I'll be dancing through the morning, marching through the night, marching across the borders of my secret life. Bite my lip, I do what I'm told. From the latest hit to the wisdom of old. But my heart's like ice, and I miss you so much. but we're still making love. Oh, 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 in my secret life. In my secret life. Repeat it. In my secret life. In my secret life. I'll play over that. Can y'all sing with us? In my secret life. Yeah. In my secret life. Get a little harmony going. In my secret life. A little louder.
In my secret life.
Yeah, beautiful. In my secret life. We'll retard here. In my secret life.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We got our own Guitar Town choir here.
Well done. So, changing gears just a little bit, because this is somewhat of a workshop here. So, it's always good when we can impart a little information to the assembled guitarists and musicians.
Do you think they have some questions, or?
They may. That's subtly telling the host to move on.
No.
And done in such a tasteful manner. I so appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Do we have questions? Questions. See, everybody gets shy all of a sudden. Everybody outside wants to tell me what to do.
It won't last.
Yes, right here. You're trying to, as a new guitar player, trying to focus in one particular area versus being pulled in many directions.
I mean, I say just do what you want. If you're inspired, because like when a kid starts playing guitar, if a teacher like makes them learn songs they don't want to learn, or makes them practice scales and they don't want to do it, they're not going to keep playing. So, yes, you have to practice things that teach you the actual physical technique of playing, but mainly you got to play songs and riffs and things that you like, or otherwise you won't keep doing it.
Yeah.
You got to find your voice on it too. Your style is embedded somewhere in all those different styles, and you got to find it.
It takes work. It's mining it out. But starting out, the musicians we didn't make any boxes. I don't think anybody up here can say, well, I just like one kind of music. I mean, if you're a blues guy, you probably like jazz or some jazz. They're rock and roll. It's all the same, really, like what we were saying before. But so don't let the music business, because there's bends, like this is blues or this country or this is rock and roll or whatever. Don't pay any attention to those guys. They don't matter anymore anyway. So just do what you like, man, and what you love will come through. And it's God put a stamp in every one of you out there, and you're unique, and your job is to mine that out. That is your job.
Absolutely. Who else? Yes, sir. Strings.
I use whatever's in the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's very much a personal taste.
Some people care a lot about it.
Yeah.
I don't care so much about it. Pretty much. Well, I made friends with some of the string makers in New York. And there are families that all kind of work. And one guy, Tom Vinci, he designed the machine that all the other makers use. And so you might say, it might say one name on the package that you get, but the same maker makes those strings for like
manufacturer.
10 different brands.
Yeah.
So if you just find ones you like, I mean, I think the difference is if you like those ones that have a coating on them, they're supposed to last longer,
I hate
or those kind of things. I say just wash your hands before you play.
Right.
I
You know?
agree.
Very important.
Good advice in most of your life, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yes, right here.
Well, when I first started, you know, I was learning electric guitar, and this was in like, I think I got my first guitar in 1967 or 8. So at that time, you know, like rock and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and rock and stuff was on the radio, and that's what I liked. And I would try to learn anything that I liked off the radio, you know. Bluebird from Buffalo Springfield, or there was a song called No Time by the Guess Who. And I thought, yeah, this is cool. There's like a fuzz part that goes at the beginning. It's gonna be loud, but okay. So the part that was hard for me to learn was to bend a note and do vibrato after it's bent and hold it up there, because I'd be like. I couldn't hold it up there. I could hold it like that, but then as soon as I started shaking, it would fall under there. So that took a lot of practice, and it basically took like learning how to be strong enough with that finger, right, to hold it up there and vibrato. So years later, I met Randy Bachman, who was the guy that played that on the record. And of course, I wanted to share my story with him. And I said, you know, I learned how to bend and do vibrato from No Time, you know, your opening riff in No Time. He said, oh, I didn't do it like that. I said, what do you mean? I said, you bend the note and then there's vibrato. He said, yeah, I had a Gretsch with a Bigsby on it. So he just
The key to musical advancement, hearing it and then figuring out how to play it without necessarily knowing how it was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes. Ragtime. Whatever happened to ragtime?
Yeah.
They used it for a movie one time.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know.
I mean, there are some.
There's a
terrific
whole
ragtime
there's
guitar
probably a
players.
whole kind of society of ragtime
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
You know, they probably have conventions and they
It's
get
probably
down
a-
and there's modern players and
It's
stuff.
probably a niche thing.
Yeah.
It's
don't you
probably
think?
it's too hard for most people to play.
Yeah.
Those pieces maybe
That's
for
what I
those are
Alex
tough.
Painter are really
Yeah.
Those
really
are tough.
intricate pieces.
Yeah. So who else? In the back. Yes. No. Practice routines. Well, let's. Why does Allen Iverson come to mind at this moment? Little basketball reference there. But you know what? I'm going to go to the educator here.
Please do.
And talk to him about practice. What do you tell your students?
Well, I tell them about elaborate practice routines that I unfortunately haven't used myself in 20 years, so maybe it's a little bit hypocritical. I think practice routines, it's an interesting thing because in the end, it's about figuring out the big picture of what music consists of and what your goals are. And then you will have different needs throughout your career. So the needs you will have for what you will have to practice and focus on when you're 8 or 14 or 18 will be different than when you're, when you're a professional and you've been touring the world for forever. So, I mean, there's no real, who asked that question? You asked that question, right? There's no real definitive answer. And in the end, if you want to be a blues musician, for instance, there's no need for you to work on mastering. I mean, there are so many things you can focus on, and here's the big thing to take away from what we're talking about right now is that the guitar community is a community of very, very passionate individuals. Guitar players are notoriously known among all other musicians as the biggest geeks. We can talk about cables and pedals and strings and guitars and pickups and techniques. We can talk about players all day long, whereas other instrumentalists don't really have that. Doesn't seem like it's a matter of life and death. And the same thing goes for practice routines. Because the guitar is such an unconventional instrument, there are so many solutions to how you can arrive at the goal for whatever you want to do and whoever you want to be. And I think a practice routine is helpful to get some essentials in place at an early age. But I think by the time you're 25, how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Okay, so you probably stop having a practice routine, or should have.
No, I still practice, and my favorite time to practice is the morning. And whenever I'm not on the road, I love to wake up at 4 a.m. and practice for a few hours. And you know, we talked about a hard technique to learn. Like for me, like the Lenny Bro, Chet Atkins harp harmonics. It took a long time to get that to feel comfortable. And I think if you're learning a difficult technique or a style of music, and you know, different people will feel more or less comfortable with having a routine. But I like having a routine. I would have a chart on my wall with 15-minute blocks. And I would do 15 minutes of that harmonic technique, 15 minutes of scales, 15 minutes of kind of rhythm playing, and I would really try and just figure out what I want to work on and discipline myself to do it. And that's what I enjoy the most.
That explains a lot.
And it shows. And it shows.
All good. I mean, all good.
Would you ever consider being like a guitar life coach trainer?
Because God knows there's a big market for it.
But it really, I mean, when it comes to practice, it really is about you know, focusing on stuff that you love, stuff that you're interested in, first of all, rather than mindlessly playing scales.
Well, or, I mean, the thing is, if you're actually practicing, you have to work on the stuff that you can't play. You're not playing, you're not noodling, you're not sitting in front of the couch, you're not jamming along to your favorite songs. If you're actually practicing, you're doing something specific to learn something that you can't do better. Right. And if you don't slow it down and practice it perfectly, you won't be able to speed it up. Because your brain's like a little computer, like a sequencer. And if you're making it sort of a flub when you're doing it slow, you're going to believe that's going to happen fast. And also, if you're doing it sort of unconfidently when you're sitting by yourself in your room, then you get on the stage in front of a bunch of people. You think your confidence is going to be higher and you're going to really rock it? No. So you have to pretend and practice it as if you're doing it in front of a million people. One of my good friends is from Manchester, and his father was a musician on the radio, on the BBC radio. And so he would come and play a piece for his father, and he said, "Is it radio ready?" In other words, when that red light comes on and you know there could be a million people listening, are you going to fuck up?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can speak very personally to that. You know, play guitar. It's a whole different deal when you sit on the stage and try to play stuff that's sitting on your couch like all day long. You know, and then
there's
you get up there.
different styles and readiness of chops. Like when I get ready to go for a tour, you know, there's certain physical skills you have to have. And it can all be up here, but you got to get it here. Hopefully through here first. And physically, I mean, it takes a lot, and you got to be mentally in it, and you got to be this. And same thing, like John was saying, you have to practice a lot of this stuff, even standing up. You know, you're going through the motions and stuff like that, but you're getting ready to go on a tour. It's way different than writing a song or recording a song. And now, as artists, all of us have to do all of that ourselves. So there's different, I look at it as different factions of chops, you know, and we have to constantly keep them all sharp and developed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
tour
good.
time is,
Please continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it brought to mind before I forget it, and I know Guy Clark was not really, everybody think is a great guitar
We
player,
love
but
Guy Clark.
a dear friend of mine, and I learned a lot from Guy. I wrote a lot with Guy, but it was funny. Guy would, and this is something I learned long into our friendship, that he would, we'd write songs, and when he got 10 or 12 that he really liked, then he would record, and he'd record all at once. But before he did that, and he confessed this to me, and I actually saw him do it, stood in front of a mirror. As good as he was, he made damn sure that he was ready to go, because when they cut in the studio, it was live, and he didn't like overdubs, and he didn't like fades. Yeah. I mean, he, you know, and even the
he had
great
to
Guy
know it.
Clark, you know.
He had to know it. That's great.
ultimately, it is to entertain the folks. I mean, that's what we all do. We're not actors.
Yeah.
You know, if you learn cover songs, that's all good and fine. But like when we were talking about cover music, that's good. But you're kind of being an actor. You know, I live in Hollywood. I don't want to be an actor.
Yeah.
I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
So that's what I got to say about that.
Yeah. Cool. Who else? Yes. Inspiration for new material. This can go in many directions.
I mean, for me, it's usually when some kind of life event happens, and you know, often if a friend passes away, that's kind of how I process those feelings.
Yeah.
Usually, it comes out in a song.
I think some of the part of that question might be: are you always writing, or are you only writing when there is a project or an album to get done?
Writer's right.
It's all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Samantha.
I was gonna say writing is there's like a muscle memory to writing. I feel like it's anything else. If you stop doing it, you're gonna kind of lose the ability for it to flow as freely. You know, you're not gonna be inspired by a lot of the things around you if you kind of shut that, you know, if you shut that door, so to speak. So I think it's important to always, you know, keep it open, always have a pen, or, you know, put in your phone, sing your melody in your phone. Everybody's putting it in their phone now.
Yeah.
But, you know, just to keep that inspiration going, just keep working on stuff.
And that's
You're
enough.
right, and don't you think that just once you start writing songs, then little phrases or things that other people say, things that you hear or see, they become ideas, and I think it's your, you know, it's your job. I mean, I feel like, not to get all, you know, metaphysical, but I feel like we're here right now, and all of us with the things that we've learned to be a conduit for information, inspiration, joy, sorrow, whatever that we can share with the world, you know. And so it's kind of irresponsible if you're given ideas, melodies or lyrics or whatever, if you don't write them down or save them in some kind of way, it's disrespectful. And I think the muse or whatever's given them to you is going to stop if you don't respect it.
Damn right.
My favorite Keith Richards quote is when somebody asked him years ago, how do you come up with those memorable riffs and those melodies? And he goes, you know, I don't so much create them as I receive them.
Yeah. It's true.
And I think the point is that if you're playing, even if you're learning to play, you always have to be open to that.
I was talking to my friend Carla yesterday. We always have these wonderful talks, and with these, we were talking about where it occurred to me, I never got this out in our conversation, but the reason, and I bet you everybody up here feels some kind of similar way to this, the reason that I ride all the miles that I ride and lug all the gear in the hotel rooms and the good God Almighty and the food is not for me, but it really is the music that I'm doing it for. It's the music. And Merle Haggard told me one time, and I never forgot it. He said, Leroy, some of us are born to carry the burden of the music, and you're one of them. You're one of us. And it's true. Everybody up here, nobody would be in this position if they didn't have some of that in them. Wouldn't you agree, y'all?
Yeah, because it's, I mean, I mean, as a job choice or a career choice, if you looked at the odds and actually like the money that you get paid per hour that you actually work, it's ridiculous, really. You know, it's crazy. Even people, you know, earning on a lot higher level than us, still, you know, I mean, you're pretty much 24/7. If you're not playing, you're on your way to a gig, and if you're not, you're thinking about a song, or you're recording, or, you know, having a photo session, or it's there's always something.
Yeah.
So you have to really, really want to do it from your heart, and sort of have to do it in a way.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, you can't
Well,
help it.
Yeah, and Walter, you took that. I mean, just speaking about the record that you just made, there's a sense of responsibility to those songs.
You know, I just always wanted to be a blues guy. I wanted to play like Mike Bloomfield. You know, when I was a kid,
good goal.
I heard Mike Bloomfield, and I went to my mother at age 14 and said, I'm going to be a blues guitar player, dropped out of school, and never looked back. But so I just been, in a certain way, almost stuck in that genre, because then I ended up with John Lee Hooker and Big Mama Thornton and Percy Mayfield and John Mayall and Canned Heat. And me and the 12-bar blues have a love affair. But I thought it was a bit of a responsibility to try to bring notice to the fact that, you know, there's this greatest hits of the blues, Stormy Monday, Mojo work, and they do it over and over. It's like a classic rock radio station with Don't Fear the Reaper, but it's the same 20 songs. And I just felt like that was disrespecting this beautiful history of this music, this incredible, rich history that's there of this remarkable music and these songs and these forgotten artists, you know?
Yeah. You know, you mentioned so many of the great artists that you played with. And I'm wondering, for someone like John Lee Hooker, if you could distill it into a couple of sentences, what did you learn from playing with him?
I'll tell you a story about Mr. Hooker. I was in my early 20s. I got in the band. We didn't rehearse. How can I put this? I was the only guy under 60 years old, and I was the only vanilla fella, okay? And before we went on, I said to Deacon Jones, the keyboard player, what are we going to do? And this is what he told me. He said, all you got to do is play E. And he did this. E, E, they call it Stormy Monday. E, Tuesday's just as bad. E, Wednesday's worse. E, Thursday's also sad. I said, I got it. And then he said, and when the hook points at you, you play a solo. I got it. So I did about 6, 7 gigs with him, and we had not done one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. And I had a hard time understanding Mr. Hooker, because we don't really talking about, you know what I'm talking. So I said, hey, Hook, we haven't done one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. How come we haven't done that song? And he said, I don't think you can follow the changes. All righty. You got it.
Thank you.
You got me. You know, he was very interesting fella. You know, the one I loved dearly was Big Mama Thornton.
Uh-huh.
And I had a ball with her. I had a great time. There's a video of me playing with her, and in the video, she's sitting, you know, when I played with her, she was near the end of her life, so she was small, emaciated Mama Thornton. But she would sit on a stool, and she would play. And you could see me. I used to go up and whisper in her ear, and I was saying, hey, come on, Mama, I love you. Come on, give me a kiss, baby. Give me a kiss. And in the video, she turns around to me and goes. But now I wonder in horror if she had said sure. You know, but she was awesome. I loved her.
Who else? I saw, yeah. What? Yes, right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm hip. I got trigger finger in both hands. I got tendonitis in both hands. There's some days I just want to cry when I wake up, honest to God. But for some reason, when I get on stage, it goes away. Same
I
thing
got a
with the
new
foot.
liver, but that's from 5 years of canned heat.
That isn't necessarily the guitar playing. No. Yeah. But I will say, lots of guitar players suffer shoulder,
Oh.
neck, back. That guitar that Leroy's holding, that is not the lightest instrument ever created.
Well, in fact, I received a call about a little over 3 months ago from Elton John, and he asked me to come out and fill in for his regular guitar player, Davy Johnston, who had been playing since he was 17, with a Les Paul around his neck, and he was having some neck and back and shoulder issues.
Yeah.
And there was never enough time off the tour for him to actually, get it taken care of. So they figured if I came in for that period of time, that tour leg, and then there was a little break after that, then he could address everything, and that's exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
He's kind of back to fighting form, and he'll be back on the tour in September. But, that's not something you would ever think about when you're 17 years old starting to jam on a Les Paul, that year after year after year, and he especially, he doesn't just stand there and play.
No.
He rocks out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's, like anything else physical, we're talking about practicing and different things like that. You're moving muscles, and you have to move them in a very, very fine, accurate way, in the same way that very, very good athletes do. They might be smaller movements, but they're still muscles.
Yeah. Yeah. And over time, no question, the flexibility and the agility.
Yeah, things happen. There's a technique. I don't know if you all have heard of it, but it's related to chiropractic, but it's called applied release technique, and it's very, very helpful for people that have repetitive motion issues. Violinists, dancers, drummers, guitar players, people that do the same. There's a guy in Nashville named Preston Wakefield who was on staff for the Titans and the Predators, and he's like a magician with that kind of stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like
anyway.
to say one thing is years ago my shoulder went out.
Yeah.
And if you come see me play today, you'll see that I have this guitar strap. It's called a Dare strap. It was invented by a guy named Troy Dare. It comes down over both shoulders, and you can adjust it while you play.
Huh.
And I actually have all the weight of the guitar on this shoulder because this one still works. But you can still move the guitar around.
Yeah.
But I gave one to Randy Bachman. I gave one to Hutch Hutchinson, who plays bass with Bonnie Raitt. I've kind of turned a lot of guys onto it, and it's a career saver.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Well,
And
duly noted.
you can get them through Diodario for $20, and it's an amazing thing. I've used it for 12 years,
Huh.
and it saved me.
Wow.
That's great.
That's good
That's
to
great.
know.
Yes, right here.
What?
Ooh, hearing protection. Hearing.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, what'd you say?
Some of
I mean,
us-
it's an issue, but no question about it.
I've been very lucky. I don't have any hearing loss. Just a little at the very top of it, but that's because I'm 62. But I always kept my amps low, kind of hit me in the calves and make the people in the front row pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's a good
honestly.
philosophy.
Sorry, I use plexiglass now. I've gotten I'm very, very kind now.
Yeah.
Very
Yes, right there.
What?
Yeah.
Well, that's our friends at Guitar Center would talk about that. In that, we're raising successive generations of kids who don't necessarily have guitarists as heroes.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not. I mean, there are some, and I'm making broad generalizations here, but the guitar is not necessarily a front and center instrument in popular music today.
It ain't 1956 and Chuck Berry
Yeah.
ain't on bandstand.
Yeah.
Or 1964, was it, that the Beatles were on Sullivan? We
Yeah.
both saw it.
I mean,
That happened, and it changed
Yeah.
everybody. Everybody wanted to play guitar.
Samantha, who was your guitar hero?
Oh man, I mean, I grew up listening to the radio, so when I started picking up the guitar, my dad and his friends played, and so I kind of wanted to start doing. I mean, I grew up with my dad's friends and him, learn how to play from them, so I wasn't learning it from pop radio or anything, but.
Right.
I listened to classic rock radio, and those were all the guitar heroes were living,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
then I found the blues from there. I mean, there's ways to play it and reinvent it and keep it fresh. I mean, I hear there's contemporary guitarists now that are doing it that are, Gary Clark Jr., Marcus King. There's, St. Vincent. She's like an electronic. I mean, that's
kills
just,
it.
Yeah. There's still guitarists. It's
Yep.
just I think that it's not maybe so much in the forefront, but you have to pay a little more attention. But
Yeah, you can find. I mean,
You can find
you
it.
can definitely find them. There's no
it's
question
not
about
it's
it.
not like you said, it's not the Chuck Berry era anymore, but there
Yeah.
still are people playing.
Yeah, yeah. So yes. You might want to ask Walter's liver. How do you unwind?
Probably just like all the rest of you, like Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a good one.
Yeah, if you can get like kind of involved in a series that it might stop the music in your head for a while, and maybe sort of take you out of like Leroy and I were just talking about. We're obsessed with Men in the High Castle, and that's all about like an alternate reality. The whole show is about that, so you kind of jump into that.
Yeah.
But that's me.
It used to be Jack Daniels and hookers. Now it's Netflix and a couple of cookies.
That may be the title
Well,
of your
at least
next
you got-
song. Netflix and a couple of cookies.
You always
My
got-
wife, she says to me, you got to watch those cookies. And I'm like, dear, you should have seen me 40 years ago. You'd be glad I'm eating a couple of cookies.
All right. Well, I realize we're kind of rocking on here a little bit because I think we're waiting on weather. But is there a song that we can kind of break up some of this conversation with? Somebody got a song? Who's got a song? What's that?
Write a new song with the cookies. We don't want to give that one up because
Yeah.
we're hoping to play that later.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
Thank you.
But-
Thanks for asking for it,
Right.
brother.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Right.
Unless you want.
Something
Which
simple.
one? What is it?
Got my mojo working.
Oh, wow. Bless your heart. God.
Give me 2 seconds. I just got to explain what's going on to you guys
Okay.
and to everybody
Wow,
else.
you guys are really seeing the behind the scenes kind of stuff today.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Bob
Bob Burwell. Yesterday was Bob's birthday. Could we sing happy birthday to Bob? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you. Had to happen, brother.
So here's the deal. Because of the weather, we're winging this. We're going to do the first 2 acts of the regular show, which is going to be the Mark Selby tribute, and then Stieg playing first. We're doing it in here.
Okay.
They're going to be, the problem is they're going to be a little stripped down because we only have 1 set of drums. So we may go back outside. The weather possibly will get better after 2 o'clock. So the trick here is we're going to go to 12:15 on this. We're going to set for the Mark Selby tribute and for Stieg. I got a feeling we're going to end up doing the whole day in here, right? We're going to open up this section over here. We'll have more space, and we'll fit in as many people as we can fit in. You guys got your seats. You're in pretty good shape here. So anyway, after we get through with Stieg, we'll see where we are in the weather, and if there is a little, if we do have to bring the whole thing over here, we're going to have about 20-minute break or so to get the drums over here and get those set up. So not putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe you would bring your acoustic guitar over here.
Sure.
And fill a gap.
Absolutely.
You're the manager.
That's what happens when you manage those guys. You.
Bob Burwell. All right, so we got time to do like one more song here amongst the group. If there's something you guys can pick out, whatever it is, pick one and away we go.
You must look at me like
Well, you're the encyclopedia, man.
I am an encyclopedia. All right.
Well, you know what Selby used to do.
Yeah, but I don't. All right. We'll do something really, really simple. In the key of E. But it starts on the 4 chord, right? For goodness sake, I got the hippie shake.
Oh yeah.
I got the shake. The hippie shake. You can't sit still with the hippie shake. Got my feel now with a hippie shake. Yes, in the back. Woo! The hippie shake. Well, you can shake it to the left, shake it to the right, do the hippie shake with all of your might now, baby. Come on and shake. It's in the back. Woo! The hippie shake. Come on, Steve.
Well, you can shake it to the left, shake it to the right, do the hippie shake shake with all of your might. Now, baby, come on and shake. Yeah, it's in the bag. Woo! The hippie hippie shake. Yeah, it's in the bag. Woo! The hippie hippie shake. Yeah, it's in the bag. The hippie hippie shake.
Come on now. Yeah. Get up for Walter Trout, Steve Pfister, Leroy Parnell, John Jorgensen, Joe Robinson, Samantha Fish, and Stig Matheson. Come on. How about that, huh?